Hey travel bosses, I'm excited to bring you this week's sponsor, TripStreak, the smarter travel search. What I love about TripStreak is the ability to search by personal preferences, such as preferring red-eye flights only, or only wanting lie-flat seats. So the next time you need to book a flight, check out tripstreak.com/travel-like-a-boss.
Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, the radio show all about traveling like a boss by being your own boss. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have built their own online businesses. If you would like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit travellikeabosspodcast.com for instant access. And here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey guys, it's Johnny, and welcome to episode 149 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here with James Radcliffe.
Hey Johnny, good to be here, man. 149, wow.
That's crazy, right?
It has been a journey.
It's pumping up now. So how did we meet, James? And where are you from?
Absolutely. So I'm from the suburbs of New York City, and we met. Depends on whether you want to start with my interacting with you online. I was reaching out.
Let's go way back when. So we're in Chiang Mai now, but we just got done with the Nomad Summit. But way back when, how did we, what's the whole story?
So it started with me. My journey started, I've always kind of identified with, sort of living something greater. I guess you would say in your terminology, living like a boss somewhat. And I didn't want to settle for sort of whatever kind of lifestyle that society seemed to be pushing me into, and it didn't feel quite right. So I was telling Riley the other day, it's funny, I guess I was sort of like a rebel without a cause there for a while, because I wasn't sure exactly where I was going. It started being like end of high school, going into college. I was like, I guess I'm going to go to college next year. So I sent out finally super late some applications, got into a college that I was about to go, and thinking about playing lacrosse there. And I was just like, I don't think, I want to do this. And I had at that point started working in a warehouse. My dad actually owned some real estate, and one of his tenants was working with an art dealer as a salesman. And I had started working in the warehouse there, putting the pictures in the frames, and it's called stretching them, and touching up the frames and stuff, doing the production. And I ultimately had the opportunity to be the main salesman there. And
this is you're pretty young still, right? You're 23 now?
Yeah.
So how old are you at this time?
So this was 19 years old.
Okay. So instead of going to college, you decided to work at your dad's factory.
So it wasn't my dad's. It was my dad's tenant, who was the sales guy there. And he said, have James, he seems like a pretty good kid, and we'll have him come over and help out a little bit. But I had the opportunity there to learn the business, right? So I was learning. I would listen to their conversations. And, meanwhile, I was working in the warehouse there, stretching the paintings and framing them. And I would be listening to podcasts, listen. And I said, what was that tape I used to hear my dad play back in the day when I was like a little kid? And, he would be working on something, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? So
wow, that's cool that your dad had that mentality.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But he didn't press it on me or anything. It was like I heard glimpses of it. It wasn't like he said, James, sit down, we're going to listen to this.
I almost wonder if that subliminally programmed your brain to think differently, that you're like, you know what? According to what I heard in this book, I shouldn't be going through the normal route.
I would hope so, man. I think it would be honorable to say that, because I was just so young. It was just in one year out the other. I was not ready for it. I wasn't even thinking about money or anything like that. So as a kid, but I remembered the name. I remembered something about it. And they're lonely, in the warehouse for hours at a time. You got to start thinking about the future. So I started thinking about that stuff. I remember the name, looked it up, found it, listened to it. I was like, that's why I felt like this society was not taking me where I want to go. I don't want to be an employee my entire life. I don't want to be, living like most of society. Not to talk down on that, but that's just not what I'm good at. That's not where my skills are. This is where I really want to go. So I saved up at the sales. Long story short, worked there for a while.
So at this time, did you talk to any friends about this or any family members about this? Did anyone kind of share that same mentality with you?
I did start to tell my dad, and he was supportive. He wasn't exactly, he really kind of has been sort of letting me figure things out. So whether I maybe wanted a little bit more input from him, maybe, but it's definitely forced me to sort of definitely have the freedom and the ability to figure things out. I didn't hang around with that many people. I was like, these people that I'm hanging out with. Actually, for the first year that I was working with, I was hanging out with some friends from high school, but it was sort of still that rebel without a cause thing. But when I listened to that again, and I got serious, and I was like, I got to do something. I'm not just going to make, because I worked actually for an entire year, and I was like, I'm nowhere further than I was when I started this. I have a little bit more knowledge now, but other than that, no further. And I was like, I'm not going to have another year like that. Bought a house at foreclosure and started fixing it up. And
wow, so you saved up enough money at the sales job to be able to buy a house.
Yeah. I mean, it was nothing huge. I actually got it for a very good price at foreclosure. As I said, it was actually an auction. And it's funny because my dad actually had one across the street. So he saw the deal, and I was like, I'm going.
Wow. Okay. So can I ask how much it was?
Yeah. Actually, you'll never guess the first price that I bid, that it got accepted for.
I have no idea what it was.
This is something that, I was renting for about $850 to maybe $1,000 a month in the market. And the first offer, which was accepted, was actually $3,000.
Shut up.
$3,000.
Really? Why would they?
Really?
Why would they give that to you? That's only like 4 months rent.
Right. It's crazy. So the town was just kind of like an old Rust Belt town in America, where it used to be a huge brass manufacturing town, and the jobs left. Right. So there they are. You have this town, this beautiful buildings, old, really well built, and it was really row housing, townhouse for factory workers. So they're really well built, poorly maintained, and there was no jobs there anymore. I mean, some certain jobs, but the point is nobody there can really afford to buy. They have to rent. It's a captive rental market, and I just saw it as an opportunity. And
was there a tenant in that house ready before you bought it?
There had been, for a long time. It was vacant for at least a year, so it was boarded up and everything. And I think we had somebody. I can neither confirm or deny this, but I think we had somebody sneak in and just check it out real quick before I actually bought it.
That's actually very smart. You know what? Those are one of those things where, like, so Arnold Schwarzenegger had a great inspirational talk at a college, I think, and maybe Anthony or Edward can put this in the show notes, but he talked about how one of the rules of success is to break the rules. He said, don't necessarily break the law. But there's always that kind of gray zone where you have to break the rules. And you know what? This is one of those things where, technically, if you did, quote unquote, did do it, that isn't technically legal. That's technically breaking the rules. But at the same time, like, why would you want to buy something sight unseen and then go inside and realize, like, there's a sinkhole in there, or there's, or it's something way worse. So, yeah, like, to me, it's like, as long as it's not hurting anyone, like, you should. I would have done it.
There are certain things that are rules for the sake of being rules at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, they probably don't want, like, everybody going in all the time. And then also, from the seller, maybe the seller's kind of like, maybe they're trying to hide something.
Oh, it's the bank now. It was foreclosure. So now the bank owned it. It had been broken into, and, they took the pipes and everything like that, the copper. But like I said, it was accepted for $3. Somebody bid me up until I looked over at them, and I was like, dude, I'm going to keep going. Like, I wasn't going to go much farther because I didn't have a whole ton, but I was prepared to probably go up to like 10 grand.
Ooh, okay.
I ended up getting it for 7.
Wow. Very cool. Congratulations on that.
Spent a lot of time figuring out how to do that. And, if I really needed any questions, I would fortunately ask my dad, but a lot of time figuring out how to do that, and time spent listening. So to answer your original question as to how I came across you and started interacting with you, I typed in some stuff along this line, and you were one of the first people that I came to listen to, which was a interview with you and Riley sitting at Punspace outside, and I was like, man, here I am in this cold, dark building, no electricity, got a headlight on working, and there they are living the dream out there, and they're just sitting in a nice sunny spot, they're still making money, living life on their terms, really, which is what it's all about, right? So
yeah, and here you are now.
That's right, man. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
How did it feel to actually be in that courtyard of Punspace where that video was filmed?
Dude, I was speechless, man. I really was, because I had thought about it for so long, and I had felt it. It was, definitely for sure on a nervous system gut level. It's like, this is real. Like, this is awesome. So I really got to appreciate you there for just being in a place where I could come across your content. And that's such an amazing thing that now I could make that part of my reality. So awesome. Thank you, John.
I'm glad to be able to share that. I actually remember the first time I kind of very briefly met you. I saw you come in and ask for day pass, and it was completely booked. It was full. There's a lot of people in town right now, especially it was because it was probably more partially because of the Nomad Summit. So a lot of people had got day passes or month passes for Punspace, and they had a big sign that says we're full.
Right.
And you were like, no,
I have to work here. Yeah, that's right.
So what did you end up doing?
So I chatted with the very nice young lady there at the desk for a little bit and just got on sort of personable terms with her because everybody's a human being you can interact with, and I was like, look, basically I'll do anything. Let me work here. I need to work here. Like, seriously, that was my purpose. My purpose in the interaction ultimately was to work there, and I said I'll work outside. Do you have any room outside? Can I work outside? She said, oh, yeah, actually, you know what? I guess you can. And so I went and worked outside, and it worked for everybody because there was no big extra hassle for anybody inside that was competing for space, and wasn't any extra sweat off her back. And, she got, to make a little money for the company. And I was happy, too, just to finally be in the setting. So you found a win-win-win there.
That's cool. I really like that mentality where instead of just giving up, like a lot of people would have, or saying like, oh, it wasn't, either it wasn't fate or worse off blaming someone else,
Right. I couldn't do that.
Blaming the co-working space, like, oh, this space is a piece of crap.
Right.
Or blaming,
I'm never going back to Punspace again.
Blaming me, but like, oh, fucking Johnny, like, maybe come over here. But instead you're like, okay, I know what I want this. I know this would be good for me. And I know there's a way, a gray area way that's breaking the rules technically, because technically they were sold out.
Right.
Breaking the rules, that really is a win-win for everyone.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, never take things at face value. That's one lesson I've learned.
Yeah, but that's definitely like an entrepreneur kind of hustler mentality. You're like, okay, well, how can we make this work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to be like, well, what you should have done is just come earlier.
You're absolutely right too.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right on that too. That's part of that due diligence there.
Yeah,
for sure.
But very cool. So you were fixing up this house. You searched online for what did you actually search for?
I actually typed in. I was hoping in my mind there would be some kind of like 4-hour work week, the movie, which I knew that wasn't true, but I'd love to see what somebody did with that idea of the 4-hour work week is what I said. So I typed it in 4-hour work week, and the first thing that showed up, believe it or not, was an interview that Riley did with somebody in Ho Chi Minh in Saigon in Vietnam, and I listened to that and I was like, whoa, cool, like digital nomad making money online. So as you know, I had already had kind of an entrepreneurial mindset. So what I started to see develop there was a vehicle. And then the next one I started going into those. And then when I was looking for all the long format, videos, because I'm working, I don't want to stop every 10 minutes to put on a new video. So I listened to the interviews, especially because it allowed me to sort of build a story in my mind and start thinking and visualizing it. And I would get in the zone and I'd be working. And so I saw yours and I was like, man, something tells me I should click on that. So I clicked on it. As soon as you talked about Anton method, I was just like, how are these guys doing it? How are these guys? What's happening? What do I need to do? So I heard you talk about AntonMethod.com, and I was like, all right, whatever it takes, I'm in. Let's go. I decided right then and there, no matter what, I didn't care about the cost or anything. That was what I was going to go do. So I waited for the right opportunity, and I went for it.
Very, very cool. And you actually brought up another side point that's actually really cool, is the fact that even though most people consume YouTube in like 2 to 3 minute chunks, most people have ADD and they're just like, they want these like short videos that, just kind of flashy and clickbaity almost.
Right.
That a lot of people, or at least there are people that want like long form interviews or long form like content where they can just sit down, they can like, have dinner and watch a 20-30 minute video, or in your case, listen to it in the background.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as much as it might be fun to watch those shorter videos, there is just the fact is it's going to be a lot more difficult generally to really add a lot of value in a really short amount of time. So that's why for sure, instead of surrounding myself with like listening to music or something like that, I chose to be developing myself in terms of working on my character and working on the property and getting that ready. And also at the same time, I saw that as another win-win because I was developing my mind and working on a potential future with making money online.
Very cool. So where are you in that journey right now? Because actually, how long ago was that? And then where are you now?
Right. So that's been something that's taken place over the last year, between then and now, that I first came across this stuff. And I had commented a few times on your videos, and you said, cool, James, maybe I'll see you out here, something like that. Right. And I was like, he doesn't know. He will see me. So as far as where I am in the journey right now, I've launched my site, and I came across your talk actually at last year's Nomad Summit, and it was hacking MVP. And for me, that was something I identified with because as somebody that isn't necessarily super techie, I mean, I can do the basic stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm building this thing up in my mind and saying, I'm not techie enough. This is too difficult. And I said, that's garbage, man. Hack MVP. If it's marketable, you'll see some promise there. And so I decided to myself, first of all, I heard something. I heard another interview that you were on, and you said Nomad Summit, it's going to be coming up in February, so you still have a few months. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wait another year. It wasn't easy. It wasn't ideal, for sure. I wish I had some time. I wish I, got everything perfect. It wasn't going to happen. So I decided.
That's very cool. So during this last year, were you what were you doing for work-wise?
Right. Actually, I guess it was more like, it was more like 18 months or so like that, because actually over the last year, I had been on a consulting project with a high-profile politician, which we won't go into right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a full-time job.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So, but before that contract, and I didn't understand that was going to happen. That was why timing really wasn't ideal, because for me to come out, it wasn't what we would think of as ideal when we say, oh, we're going to wait until this, wait until that. Because when I did that, I expected it would be a very short stint, but they wanted to keep me on. So I wasn't able to fix my house and work on the drop shipping store. I had to put it down from August until November.
Okay. So, yeah, I was going to say, I've seen your site, that. There's no way that took 18 months to build.
Right.
Okay. But that makes sense. I mean, I bet you there's a lot of people at home listening to this that are in a similar position where they have a full-time job and they don't have that much time to do a side project. Yeah. But what would your tips to them be to stay focused and not just, have it completely, fall off the face of the earth, or have it stay on your mind?
You need to realize that, I would say, and I'm, clearly early on my journey, I would say you need to realize, you need to associate fully with the pain, because a lot of times the idea of a pleasure is not enough. It's not enough to think about, yeah, I'll be living that life. That'll be cool. That's one side of it. The other side is do you really want to live another year of your life the same that you've just done and not get anywhere, not go to a place where you can finally give, where you can finally, live to the fullest of your capability? You really want to put that off for another year? I would say the pain is for sure greater than not taking the action, there.
Wow. I think that's really, really good advice. And I think that's actually the biggest problem with a lot of people who want this lifestyle or kind of try it. Even some people that show up here, to be honest, is they're like, all right, well, yeah, I would like my life to be easy. I would like it to be sunshine and coconuts. And they might even make the journey out here, but then they don't have that drive to actually put in the work to make it succeed. So then they kind of just well, look, this is bull crap, I'm here now, and then now what? Nobody's handing me money.
It's not magically appearing in front of me. Right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and I was talking about this with some of the people I've been talking with earlier as well, but sometimes we have a tendency, especially back in the US, and anywhere really, I guess it's human nature, to settle into a comfort zone where you're like, yeah, this sucks. I won't be doing this forever. Let me just go out and drink, or let me just go out and, have a good time. I'll forget about this for a while. And that was part of my reason why I refused, as much as I really wanted to go out and go to the bars and whatever like that. I love having fun. I refused to let myself, number one, spend before I was making money from, properly the way I wanted to. But also I didn't want to dull that pain. I didn't want to forget about it or escape it. I wanted to, I recognized that ultimately it was going to take an acknowledgement of it and facing it, not trying to, drink it away or distract myself from it.
That's smart. That's really good, because you're absolutely right. I think most people that are unhappy in their lives, they do things like, I don't know, order pizza, binge watch Netflix, drink some beers at home.
feel a little bit better for a couple hours, and then what?
You're fine, right?
Yeah, let's imagine that, you know, you're old now and you've done that every time you felt down, and now you're looking back. Are you going to say, I'm so glad I just, you know, took that time off and just kind of, I call it taking a few years off life or taking a few months off life.
That's actually my biggest regrets and biggest fears in life has been when I've let months, sometimes years pass without doing anything. Like I know there's specific blocks in my life where those 2 years passed and I wasn't in a better place. My bank account, it was either the same or sometimes even lower. I wasn't in better shape. I didn't have better relationships. Nothing had improved. I probably didn't even learn anything in those 2 years. And I just went through the motions.
Right.
And I think that is probably the most dangerous thing for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't hide from that. You faced it ultimately and you were like, I will not let that happen again. Like I'll just not. And it's funny, so funny that you say that now, because there was a particular podcast you were on or interview, and I heard you say that same exact thing. You said, you know, one of the things that I fear the most, one of my greatest fears is being in the same place next year that I was last year. And I was like, whoa, I actually replayed it. I was walking around doing something like running an errand or something. I actually stopped, replayed it as soon as I got out, and I was like, exactly.
Yeah. Especially if that place you are right now is not your ideal place.
Yeah. And you know deep down whether it is, and you know whether you're doing what you're meant to be doing, or at least on the path striving to do what you're meant to be doing. And that's honestly, if you're feeling, oh, I don't have the energy to do that, I would love to, I don't have the energy, I would say to somebody out there listening to this, the reason you don't have the energy is because you're not striving. It's not the other way around. It's not that you're not striving because you're going to wait for the energy. Start striving, and in the process, you will at a subconscious level recognize that you're at least going towards that future, and you'll start gaining energy from that.
I love that. That's, you know, it's almost like going to the gym. If you're too tired to go to the gym, that's when you should probably be going, because nobody's ever gone to the gym and then be like, oh, I'm too tired, I'm just going to sit here.
Right.
Once you're there, you end up working out, and then you feel a million times better afterwards.
Yeah. When have you ever said, I mean, unless somebody ever like got like a serious injury or something, like when do you ever finish a workout and you're like, oh man, I just crushed that workout, I really wish I hadn't done that. Like what? That doesn't happen, man.
You know, but then how many times have you been at home and been like, oh, I'm a bit tired, or oh, I'm a bit sore, or I like, for whatever reason you have an excuse not to go to the gym, and then you just stay home and you feel worse.
You feel worse. Absolutely. Yeah. Just recognize that if you're in the place that you are because you're afraid of failing, or you're afraid that you don't quite have what it takes yet, you know, just realize that in and of itself, settling for that and kind of resting in that feeling, and especially if you're complaining, that's already failing. You're already failing if you're in that position where things kind of suck, but not enough to spur you into action or something like that. Ultimately, you're going to come to a point where you have to face it, and you'd rather it not be years down the line where you're saying, I wish I had started when I did, and I wish I had made the most out of that time, because now I'm finally forced to face it instead of forcing myself to face it. So force yourself now, so that ultimately circumstances don't force you to face it yourself and on their terms.
I like it. So we just got done having fresh mangoes and coconut milk Americanos.
Ooh, I'm still nursing this. This is great, man.
And the reason why I invited you on this podcast today, not only because you have an interesting story, but you asked me a question that really got me thinking. And it made me think so hard that I was like, I cannot believe I've never talked about this on the podcast, because I realized how important it was. Do you remember what that question was?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I said, Johnny, and it's something that's been playing over and over in my head, actually, over maybe my entire life. Like, what's the difference? And I said, Johnny, we were walking to go get this coffee. I said, finally, you know, this seems like the time to ask, Johnny, what is the difference, in your opinion, between the people that, you know, dip their toes in and you never hear from them again, or that say, oh, Johnny, you know, look, I'm starting my store, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to make money, you know, watch, you know, talk to you soon. And, you know, you never hear from them again. Or the people that ultimately take action and make it happen no matter what, versus the people that said they would and disappear.
So that was actually the first question that I actually want to talk about as well. So for this one, it was basically, if you need it, you can't just kind of want it. you have to actually need it. Like you actually have to be like, fuck, like if I don't do this, I'm gonna regret this for the rest of my life.
Right.
You can't just be kind of comfortable and be like, oh well, you know what, I'm fine. And that's what my talk this year at the Nomad Summit was about. Is there are so many different levels of where you are in terms of not only just finance or like income, but also what you actually want with your life and what you want to do with your money. So it's not going to be out for at least a few weeks. So check back on nomadsummit.com, put in your email address there, and we'll email you the videos when they're ready. But my talk this year was called the Digital Nomads Hierarchy of Needs. And the whole point of it is figuring out where are you on that hierarchy of needs? Are you happy there? And if you are, to actually just stay there.
Sure.
And I think that's advice that nobody ever gives, is that it's okay. Like you're good enough exactly where you are as long as you're happy.
Right.
But as soon as you feel like you need more, you're unhappy, or you want to strive for more, or things are missing, you have to get to the next level. You know, because it's not good for you. It's not good for the people around you. It's not good for anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're not doing anybody any favors either if you're not in a good place yourself. Right.
Because that's when you start trying to pull people down.
Yeah. Like subconsciously, on a subconscious level. Yeah. Right. That's why it's your duty to really be where you need to be and where you want to be in life, because otherwise, you know, you're not. It's really your duty to be as successful as you can, and whether that, you know, whatever that looks like to you, because otherwise you're not giving. You're not being a giving person. You're just being a taker.
Definitely, and I hate even bringing light to this all the time, but in a lot of the Facebook groups now, it used to be just anonymous places like Reddit or other online forums, but now Facebook groups have become like polluted with these haters and these negative people.
Yeah.
And I would guarantee you it's because something's not fulfilled in their life.
Oh, yeah. No, you'd never meet somebody that's where they want to be in life, that's like truly, genuinely content and fulfilled where they are, that's trying to bring other people down. It just doesn't happen, man.
And a big part of me feels genuinely bad for these people. So that's why I continue commenting in them. I try to help people. I try to, like, you know, I'll write like full blog posts to explain like the thing that they're, like, let's say, you know, I don't know, whatever their question, their big gripe is, right. I'll write a full blog post, I'll create a video, and I'll satisfy that answer, because I felt like maybe this is what they really need for them to move on and then start doing things right for themselves and, you know, maybe even for the community. But then what'll happen is then they'll just find something else.
Right. Well, that sucks anyway. Like falling on blind eyes, man. Yeah. You know, they're not receptive. Man.
So I finally completely unfollowed that group. I've turned off the notifications for it. And I vow that I might post some stuff in there to start a conversation, but I'm not being in the comments anymore.
Right.
Like I'm never reading the comments again. I'm never replying to comments because it just drains me so much.
Right. No, exactly. That's another form of, that's good that you recognize that too, right? Because ultimately you're not adding value to them at that point because they're not ready for it. You know, even no matter what you said, like you said, if you could write a long blog post about it, they're really not ready. They're only looking for somebody. It's like misery loves company at that point. So better to spend your time and energy elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. So the actual like question that I wanted to answer on air and have this whole episode be about was when you asked me about limiting beliefs.
Yes, that was the one. That was the second question I asked when we were sitting down, right?
Yes. All right. So go ahead and ask it again.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was definitely, I've been talking and sitting down to do some interviews with some of the other speakers, and for everybody I asked, in your opinion and your journey and your way to get to where you are now, certainly, you know, I have had, and certainly perhaps you've had as well, some limiting self-beliefs along the way. And what was your process for overcoming them? Was it something that you consciously undertook, or was that something that just kind of happened as you started taking action? So
the reason why I didn't want to just quickly answer it is I know how deep this is, and this was a lifelong journey for me. I would say for at least the last 10 years, I've been actively working on this, and I haven't really figured it out until very recent, like literally a few months ago. So I would say here's the thing is these self-limiting beliefs, or not believing in ourselves, or not having the self-esteem to know that we're good enough. This hurts us so much.
Yeah.
Not only in our personal lives and our relationships and in business and everything, in literally everything. So if anyone's listening to this right now, where you feel like you're not good enough, or that just
you can't get here too, or whatever it is you want to do in life.
Exactly. This is my journey. Okay. So the first big part of it was actually women. Like it was, I think when as soon as a teenager, I was like, I want a girlfriend. I had no idea how to get a girlfriend. I had no idea how to talk to girls. And it didn't really matter because none of my friends seemed like they cared that much about dating until one day they magically all had girlfriends. And then I was like, well, oh crap. What do I do now? So I was thinking, it's like, okay, when I get a car, then I'll have a girlfriend.
Right.
So, I was like, work towards, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to wait. All right. I'm going to wait until I get a car. Then I got a car, but it was like a 88, Pontiac. And I was like, okay, I need a good car. I need a better car. Like no girls want to date me with this crappy car. So I was like, okay, once I get a better car, then girls will like me. Then I can get a girlfriend. And once I got that, I was like, okay, now I need to fix it up. I was like, I need rims. Like, duh, right?
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah, I can't have these like hubcaps because what girls gonna want to date me with hubcaps?
Exactly, man.
And it almost sounds silly now. Like thinking back, especially I'm sure 100% of the women listening to this are like were you stupid? But I was, and like guys, like it's for whatever reason this is just what we thought. And there's a Chris Rock joke about like why guys will like roll up to a stoplight or something, see a cute girl, and as soon as she smiles, he like drives off as fast as he can and makes like as much noise as he can. And it's because it's our best idea so far. And, maybe it was Jerry Seinfeld, but it was like, and I did that. I had an exhaust in my car. I had like a loud sound system to get attention. And I felt like I needed that just that little bit of attention. And it didn't come from a selfish place. I think it's very easy to look at a douchebag, or someone who like has this loud exhaust and loud music to be like, oh, that guy's just a douchebag. He just wants to annoy other people. But if you really, really think about it, that person, who was me, was so insecure that we almost felt like if we didn't have people looking at us, if we didn't make this loud noise, then we were nobody.
Yeah, there's no validation, right?
Yeah. And that was another big part of my talk is from the hierarchy of needs. In the bottom, you have, your basic, living needs like food, shelter, water. Then you have more like stability, financial stability, home stability, things like that. But then that's when you get to like the esteem need. Well, no, then you have your deeper friendships and connections and family. And then after that, you have your esteem needs, your kind of self-esteem needs. And I think I don't know why it took such a big hold of me. I didn't, I don't know if every guy in the world feels out this way, because I know, mating is basic human evolution. So we all need it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I almost felt like for me, it was such a part of my life where if I didn't have a girlfriend, I was nobody. Or if I didn't ever get married, or if if a girl didn't like me, I was a loser. And I honestly do not know where that stemmed from or where it came from. I don't know if it was because, somebody was mean to me as a kid, or just because it was built up for so long before I ever actually, kissed a girl, held a girl's hand. And I think, if that started when I was like, puppy dog, phase, if I was 13 or something, just holding hands casually and, just having a girlfriend, I think my life would be very different today. But the fact that it wasn't until I was 17 that I even held a girl's hand, and I was so socially awkward and so shy about it, that really played a big impact in my life. And that was a huge part of insecurity.
Wow. That's interesting that you say that, because it reminds me that if you don't give yourself validation first, you're going to look for it to come from somewhere else. And it's always going to be, for you, maybe that was it. For other people, maybe it's, another thing. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your money. But if you don't find a way to give it to yourself and earn it, you have to earn it. If you're going to give it to yourself, you have to earn it too, because you can't just do it out of nowhere.
I love that you brought that up, because that was the solution. So I went through that, throughout high school, a little bit of college, and it really got bad after college, because during college was okay because, you know, you're busy. I had a bunch of guy roommates who played video games. And then there was always girls around just because you're in college, you know, and like, you know, I even had a girlfriend in college. So everything was okay. But it wasn't until after college I graduated that I was alone again.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, well, how am I even post date? Like, I have no idea how to meet a girl or talk to a girl. You know, and it wasn't that I was shy. Like, I was, you know, I always was a social person, but I was just so awkward around women. Like, I couldn't look them in the eye. I like could not have a normal conversation. And, you know, it just, I was just so uncomfortable. And that is when I read the book, The Game by Neil Strauss.
Yeah.
Turns out actually to be a very good author, even if you don't read that book.
Fantastic writer.
Yeah, all his books are great.
Just communicator, really.
And I read the book and I thought, wow, somebody has figured this out. Like, I wish I would have read this book when I was 12 or 13. And I've all of a sudden, I felt like somebody understood me, that there were other people in the world that were like me, and that there was something I could do about it. And that was a catalyst of change. And unfortunately, it was also 2 years of, you know, learning, you know, cheesy pickup lines and like creepily trying to, you know, meet girls at bars and just, you know, and the worst part of it was definitely, instead of me, you know, being like needing to get validation from girls, it was actually, I needed validation from the other guys, which is weird. You know, it was like a really weird stage where it was most of the pickup community, and the reason why it's so crazy and kind of cheesy is because it's a bunch of guys. It's a bunch of guys that are all bad with women, teaching each other how to be slightly less bad, and then trying to impress the crap out of each other by like our successes. Like, oh, you see me, you know, I kissed that girl.
Yeah.
You know,
So you can beat
here's
your
a
chest.
photo of me kissing her for proof, because you know, like you wouldn't believe me if I just told you, because
Right.
we are that, you know, nerdy and like that. Like, if I don't have a photo of it, then like
Didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
That's right,
and then
man.
I have to like break down exactly how it happened. And unfortunately, you know, now like that is always gonna be a part of my past that I honestly tried to just forget about.
I don't know if I
Yeah.
would forget about that if I was you, because you know what? It showed that you could improve something with, you know, there was an emphasis on progress. There was an emphasis on systemizing something that you wanted to make progress in. So I'm not sure it was something that you'd want to forget if it was me. And I mean, I totally identify with what you're saying, man. I mean, that's an important human element that, you know, we all have to face at one point, especially if you want to be everything you can be.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like, I don't regret wanting to, you know, improve myself, or, you know, putting myself out there and saying like, okay, today I'm going to try to talk to 10 strangers.
Yeah.
Or today I'm going to try to hold eye contact for more than a millisecond.
Right.
These are all things that I think are actually super beneficial to anybody, both men and women. But and you know what? And so here's actually the what has gotten me in trouble is people, you know, dig up, you know, like, oh, Johnny, like 8 years ago did this, or he wrote this, or he took this photo.
Oh, whatever. Man.
And you know what? It was embarrassing, which is why I never talk about it.
Yeah.
But from that even that point, I think that was actually probably the first time. But every time I learned something that worked, I wanted to share it with other people.
Right. You see? Yeah. So you got a peek, you got a glimpse there. Didn't ultimately take that form. It's not like you're still involved directly in that today, but it gave you a glimpse of what was. And so you kind of pivoted from that. So that's why I think it's actually something that was very valuable for you.
It was definitely very valuable, not only for me, but everyone who I can help today.
Exactly.
With business or even with scuba diving. Because as soon as I learned how to scuba dive, and I thought it was amazing, and then I learned things like buoyancy control, which is just like controlling your body underwater and not looking like a clownfish. You know, I wanted to teach other people. You know, even equalizing your ears. You know, like when your ears start having that pressure from being underwater, kind of like being on a plane. I wanted to teach people the way that I learned how I finally got over it, because a lot of people assume I learn things very easily or quickly, because that's what it seems like sometimes.
Yeah, it does seem. Yeah.
But it actually takes me. It's really hard for me to learn things. And the only way that I can learn something is if I have a above average teacher. I can never learn it on my own. I have to have an excellent teacher that really breaks it down, really explains things well in a way that I can digest it. And I think because of that, I've always wanted to share and become that teacher pretty much as soon as I learn something. Like
Yeah.
as a white
Yeah.
belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I want to like show people who have never started like the very basic foundations that I wish somebody would have showed me on my first day.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, man. That's such a value add too. But it's like what you said, man. You never know where it's going to come from, but certain things in your life end up being a catalyst for something that's so huge and momentous. Like you would never ultimately want to trade that experience, even if it's not where you ultimately ended up, for anything, because it was the catalyst, it was the spark, the ignition that brought you to ultimately a more precise vision of your ideal life.
And I love that mentality, and I do think you're absolutely correct. I think the only reason why it hurts me today is because people that are looking for reasons not to like somebody or to not trust somebody,
they'll find something, man.
they will like you worked in politics, so it's
Right.
people will dig up things from the past
Oh, for sure.
and be like, okay, well, what he's teaching today could not be valid because 8 years ago he was an asshole.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And it sucks, and like that is the last thing I want, because it's not hurting necessarily me, because to be honest, all publicity is good publicity in a weird way.
Yeah.
The more people talk trash about me online, the more followers I get, the more people listen to this podcast, and the more blog readers I get, the more money I end up making from advertising and from everything. More people buy my books.
Yeah.
So part of me should just be like, all right, fuck it. Hang away, guys,
Yeah. It's funny how that works out.
But I think what like worries me about it is I don't want people like in a position like you were in, where you were in this fucking dark house working your ass off with no hope, and then being like, well, I've read, in this fucking Facebook group that nothing works, that no online business works, everything's a scam, and I'm just not gonna try it.
Well, I know I'm going to say something to that I think you already know this too. And you guys probably already know this instinctually as well, whoever's listening. But if you're going to find a reason not to, you'll find a reason. If you want a reason not to, you'll find a reason. There's always reasons not to. There's also always reasons to. So if, it's those people that are influenced by something like that, we're already going to be influenced by something else if it wasn't that. That's my opinion.
And I think the ultimate person, someone who's really strong-headed, has good self-esteem, is confident, they will have that mentality. But I think if it was me, any little seed of doubt would have prevented me from really trying. And I think I was so lucky, and this is why I push this lifestyle so hard. I was so close to just going home, getting another corporate job that I hated, and living a life that I hated. I was so close. And all it would have took, and I hate to admit this because it makes me, sound so weak. I was insecure enough in myself, in my beliefs, in everything, that if one anonymous person posted somewhere on a message board, on a comment somewhere saying, oh, that's a scam or that doesn't work, I would have been like, oh yeah, well, good thing I read that. Now I'm not going to try.
Right. And maybe that's true. However, if ultimately something was something that you were going to, deep down you wanted as a path, that might dissuade you from one certain method or one certain way, but if that was something you probably would have done it another way.
But do you know how many people have been like, quote unquote, like an entrepreneur, digital nomad, or trying for like 3 years now, and they've never done anything successful? Like they,
right.
Maybe they're like freelancing or something where they have enough money to get by,
right.
But they haven't actually built a business because they bounce from one method to another method to another method,
right,
and never actually go full in because they had those doubts in their mind, or because they kind of go halfway through and then they're like, let me read all these negative comments, and it could be anything. It could be like, let's say Amazon FBA. I guarantee if you guys Google Amazon FBA is a scam, or Amazon FBA doesn't work, I guarantee you're going to find a ton of things saying.
For sure. But
it does work. And it's ridiculous. And here's the thing is, most of the people that are successful with it, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah. They're not, it's actually very rare. People that really hate something or they're set on it are going to be the ones that are commenting and making posts about it. The people who are succeeding are just kind of like, oh, here I am, I'm doing my thing, man. It's cool. Like you're like these people that we meet at the summit, how many of them are going to be writing those posts that are saying, oh man, it's been working for me, and here's what's going. A lot of them are just kind of living their life, and they're just like, this is cool. It's working for me.
Yeah. And part of me wishes that everyone, who did come or is successful would take the time and energy to
create content.
Either create content, educate others, take the time to go on podcasts or write blog posts or, whatever it is, right? But I know that's not going to happen. I know part of it is because people are busy running their own lives, especially if they have a successful business. They're probably busy with that. Second, they're like, whatever, like I don't have time for that, or they don't want to be involved. I think it's like a very rare thing for someone to be like, throw me in the fire, guys.
Yeah, I know. That's absolutely right. But it's what you said, though. It comes back to, you can kind of putz around for a few years or however long it is for you without, and you give yourself enough, that you're like, oh, this is what I'm working on, but get to that point, and you already know. If you're not, everybody already knows. Are you full in already on what you're doing? Are you all in? Are you committed? Because, and I said this earlier with David, I heard this quote, it goes, but it's absolutely true. If you're interested in something, you'll do whatever is convenient. But if you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes.
I like that. It's a great quote. So one of the reasons why I had the Nomad Summit every year, and also I try to do as many in-person events as possible. In Chiang Mai, every week we have the Nomad Coffee Club meetups. When I'm in town, I bust my ass to make sure we get the best speakers that happen to be in town. We get as many people into it as possible. And luckily, it still actually goes on even when I'm not in town because there's such a good community here. Usually somebody takes it over. But unfortunately, I can't really I can't control that when I'm out of town. So I'm hoping it continues because I think it's very needed. But I know for sure the big event, the Nomad Summit, which I have direct control over, happens. And one of the big reasons why I put it together isn't just for like the speakers to teach. It's for you guys to meet each other in person.
Absolutely. That is 100% valuable. Because if you're out there right now and you're thinking, oh, Johnny's, I'll find the talks online. That is the worst kind of mentality you could have about it, which is awesome that you're sharing them, Johnny. That's so sweet. That's awesome. At the same time, guys, if you think you're going to kind of like hack your way around it and just say, oh, I'll save the money, I won't have to go in there, that's an excuse that you're using most likely not to commit. So guys, if you didn't make it, if you're thinking and you like this lifestyle and, you're interested in making things happen here, decide whether you're committed or not. Decide one way or another whether you're ultimately committed. If you're not, then okay, then make that decision, but don't play around and toy with this idea for years. And ultimately that's kind of like tormenting yourself. Make a decision whether or not you're going to go for it. And if you do decide just decide actually right now. Decide right now if you didn't come, or even if you did, or whatever. Decide right now whether you're going to be here at Nomad Summit 2018. Don't play around anymore. Decide right now. I'm
going to put you on the spot. Are you coming?
Absolutely, man. There's no messing around. You're not gonna, like I said, you can watch those videos online, but if you want the full experience, you want to get around the people who are living this, who are aspiring for this. And you and I were talking about this when we were having coffee, man. Either you're part of this and you're making this a part of your vocabulary and you're living this, you're breathing it, or you're just kind of like, oh, that's kind of nice. So get around here, get around the people who are already doing it. It will exponentially increase your ability to take personal action. It's going to exponentially increase, your likelihood of success. So just get out here. Just find a way to make it happen.
I actually think that even just by committing to coming, so this definitely isn't a way to sell 2018 Nomad Summit tickets because it's not even available yet. Like you're not going to even be able to buy a ticket for at least 8 months. So unless I'm the smartest marketer in the world, which I'm definitely not, like this wasn't planned. But by having that commitment of saying, okay, like next January 2018, I'm going to be in Chiang Mai no matter what that does is that gives your brain a milestone. Says, okay, well, I got a year to make it happen. Or I got 6 months to make it happen. Like let's get on this. And I think that is vital.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Parkinson's law, if you've read 4 Hour Workweek, which a number of you probably have, Don't say, oh, it's a year. I have a few months to think about it and play around with my head. Don't do that. Don't do it. Do yourself a favor. Just decide right now. And if you decide you're not, no, I'm really probably not. I mean, I like to think about it, but I'm really probably not. Then make that your decision, because there's almost nothing you could do worse than to sort of toy around in life and kind of play around. Let yourself go all in. Just one way or another, go all in.
I like that a lot. So what did you actually like about the summit?
Oh my God, by far, it was getting around the people with a like-minded attitude. Like I said, we talked about this at lunch. It's ironic that you're going to go to a different continent to get around people that have this concentration of like-minded people, right? So it's funny because wherever you guys are right now, if you're interested in this kind of community, there's a good chance that, it's pretty tough for you. Maybe you have one or two people or a small group that are like-minded there. It's everywhere here. So it's ironic that you come to a different continent, but I guarantee you the value just to hang around, even if the entire summit wasn't here, even if you were just coming to be around other people here in Chiang Mai, that would be valuable enough. And the summit is awesome. So make it both and go all in.
I think what I liked most about the summit were two things I wouldn't even plan.
I want to talk about one highlight of it, actually.
Go ahead. Jump on it.
Okay. Because when you talk about the highlight, man, even just thinking about it, man, when you got up on stage at the end of the day and you went into some of your story, and if you mentioned this on the podcast, but seeing it in person and feeling the energy of the room and everybody just come alive with the same emotion, you talked about your journey along the hierarchy of needs for a digital nomad and an entrepreneur. And you got to the point where you said, now's my time to give back. And that became part of your reality, became part of your system. And you retired your mom. You said, Mom, whatever you're making now, I don't want you to have to work hard. Let me just write you a check for whatever you're making. And at the time, you didn't make a big deal out of it. But then when it sunk in, you realized that you retired your mom. I was literally just thinking about it right now. That's amazing. That is amazing. Because ultimately, there's only so much you can do for yourself. And right now, if you don't feel the energy and the drive, there's also a good chance that you're only thinking about yourself instead of thinking about the things and the people that you really care about. And so just think about that and associate that, because if you guys are of that age where you have parents and you care about them and love them and you're thinking about improving, I'm guarantee you there's a version of that, or you would like to do the same thing. And ultimately, I'm telling you right now, Johnny, that's a dream of mine, to be able to retire my mom and ultimately maybe even to get her a house.
I love that, buddy.
Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that. It was so powerful. It was literally internalized on such a deep level. Guys, you got to get here. If you're interested in this, seriously, find a way.
I love that, man. And you know what? Don't just have it be a dream. Have it be a goal. Seriously, go home and write that down as a goal.
A commitment. Write it down right now, guys. Seriously, if you're serious about it, make your mind up. Write it down that you will come.
Yeah. Or your bigger goal. I mean, honestly, I would like everyone to come, but
whatever that is to you.
I'd rather have everyone write down, I'm going to retire my mom, or I'm going to be able to, afford to take care of my brother or my kids, or maybe, donate this amount of money to charity, or build a school, build a house, whatever it is. Whatever your why is, write that down, because to me, that's way more important.
Right.
I mean, coming to the Nomad Summit is
This is a step along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why it's important.
And it's not an end goal. I don't want people thinking okay, you've made it here. Now, hand me some money. That's not going to happen.
Right. It's what I said, why it's so important is because you got to associate that reason why, and then take the steps along the way, because don't always put something off to the future and say, someday I'll be able to do this, and then not do the interim things, because things don't happen overnight. There's something right now you could be doing once you decide what that why is to you every day, and you should be doing every day to bring you closer to that. And this coming here, it could be, and I hope it is, one of those things.
I love that, man. I love that. So now the two things that were the highlights of my day seem very significant.
Hear from you, man.
They're the man himself. They were small. I mean, so aside from all the talks, they're amazing. But it was when I just candidly in the morning, I was just curious. I was like, hey, did anyone travel specifically to come here? And so many hands were raised. I was like, really? I was like, that many of you guys flew internationally just to come to the summit? That's insane. And then when I started asking people where they're from, Like it was literally all over the globe.
Yeah.
Like so at the Nomad,
Tell us about that.
the pool party the next day, which is kind of like the chill day after the Nomad Summit, is a casual way for people to like hang out, relax, and just get to know each other. I went around with just my iPhone and I just made a little quick video and I was like, you know, can you tell everyone your name, where you're from, and something you liked about the summit? And it was crazy that people were, you know, from all over the world, you know, like all around Asia, Australia, people from Sweden. There was a guy from South Africa with his son, which was amazing. And then they said that they have not spent this much time together, like for, I don't know, decades.
Wow. Then there was also a father and son from Bulgaria as well. And, you know, son said he's going, father said, you know what, I'm going to come too.
Yeah, and it was like, he said it was like just that bonding experience and having something they mutually can work on and they enjoy doing together. It's amazing.
That's sweet, man.
And there was a guy from Zimbabwe,
Yeah,
from South America that came.
That's right.
Obviously, a lot of Americans, Canadians. That was awesome to me.
Yeah, the actual physical representation of it is because you guess instinctually that there's people from all over doing this, but seeing, you know, because it's really a uniting force. It really is. It's so awesome, so powerful, man. I was so glad that you actually had everybody raise their hands like that.
That was cool. And then later on that day, just out of curiosity too, and this wasn't planned either.
Holy shit.
I was just like, you know, like I'm just curious, like who here is just kind of just starting out. People will raise their hand. I said, okay, you know, like how many of you guys are actually making enough where you can continue living here if you wanted to? Like, you know, how many of you are, I don't want to say like, let's call it sustainable digital nomad income. Like in Chiang Mai, $1,000 a month, you can live here as long as you want. And a ton, like more, like it was like almost like probably 70% of the room raised their hand. I was surprised. Like, well, that's cool to hear.
Me too, man.
And then I just kept going. I was like, how many people are making $3,000 a month? I said $5,000 a month. And I was almost expecting people to stop raising their hands. Especially because people in the audience. These weren't like the speakers or anything. There's just people in the audience. And then when I said,
kept going.
I was like, is anyone here making six figures a year with their online income? And like, what, like how many, like it was almost 20% of the room.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
And I was like, what are you guys doing here?
Yeah, right. But that just goes to show that, you know, nobody, you know, in this mentality thinks they're too big or too good to get more knowledge and get around the people. They see the value in this, guys. So we see such a broad spectrum of people that saw the value in getting around like-minded people. You could be one of those people.
And I feel so bad for the people that are already in Chiang Mai that didn't even have to travel, that didn't come because either their mindset was that nothing works, everything's a scam, or that they were either too broke or too cheap to afford a early bird ticket that was less than $100 and included lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but I feel really bad for the people that wanted to come, but some idiot online like talked them out of it, saying, "Oh yeah, don't go there because all they're going to do is, you know, everyone's going to try to sell you something. You know, it's going to be no value. Nobody there is making money." And I mean, as an attendee, you paid for a ticket.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you get your money's worth?
Oh, for sure. By far. That's why I did it so, especially like you said, the early bird ticket. I was like, what? You know,
and did any of the speakers try to sell you anything?
It was not a single pitch. I was surprised, and I wouldn't have even technically really been bothered because I still would have gotten the value from it, even if there was.
And I actually told all the speakers, I was like, look, as long as like the majority of your speech is content, I don't mind if you spend the last minute saying, by the way, check out my website, or this is my course, or this is my book. I don't mind that. I think, you know, like they volunteer to come here. You know, if they want it, like, you know, and the people in the audience that got a lot from them would probably love to buy their course or read their book or, you know, like whatever product they have. So like that, I didn't even mind. And it was the fact that like nobody, like Jubril has a course, a Facebook ads course, didn't even mention it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like David's whole thing was about courses, didn't even mention the link.
Yeah, I know, man. It was, but that just goes to show, like, you know, you really did massive props to you. You did a great job cultivating the right people that were in it for a reason, you know, a real, you know, a genuine, heartfelt reason that they wanted to help others. And I think that really came through. And that was a big part of the value too. Just that general spirit of we're in this together, guys. Let's make this happen. Let's make this work. We got one shot here as far as we know on life. Don't put things off until next time around because you don't know.
I love it, man. And so one of the reasons why I continue doing this is, and this is actually a little bit sad, a little bit dark, is because I think there's a chance. I don't know how big of a chance, but I think there's a very, very big chance that if people like me stop organizing in-person events in Chiang Mai, that Chiang Mai will no longer become the digital nomad haven of people coming and helping each other. Because imagine if there was no online events, there's no wait or no in-person events, and you came here and you know, it would be pretty hard to meet anyone first off.
Oh yeah.
The only place you can meet each other is in the Facebook groups or in Reddit, and then you go on there and everybody's spewing hate.
Right.
What would happen? Like imagine, like seriously, imagine that for a second, right? You flew here for whatever reason. The summit was canceled, right?
Yeah.
Which it wasn't, all right, but luckily. But and then there was no in-person events, and then you went on Facebook and into one of those groups, and then you read that. How would that make you feel?
Personally, for me, at this point, and I'm not sure whether I could always say this, at this point, I would say I'm not allowing anybody else's opinion to. I have to be open to what I experience rather than somebody's opinion online that I've never met, that I don't have any context for. I don't know whether they skipped lunch, breakfast, and they're grumpy. So that's something that I've had to do. But for sure, some people that are a little bit more tentative in their footsteps here, maybe that could, and maybe that's why this is such a meaningful higher purpose that you've developed here, because for sure you already know that this is impacting, tons of lives, for the better, positive change. And I'm sure that's so fulfilling for you because, just being around that and feeling that energy is so powerful, man. And I really appreciate it. And people really appreciate that. I think I could probably speak for everybody here that came. It's really genuinely appreciated.
I appreciate that. I really do. So I want to kind of leave everyone with a couple actionable tips on how to get over the actual self-limiting beliefs.
Love it.
Yeah. So I would say, first off, don't rush it because it might take time. It took me almost 10 years. But I think you can kind of streamline it a little bit by just kind of following these couple steps. All right. So one is definitely believe it's possible. I think the just by you guys listening to this podcast, you guys are already at least on that step. Right. Find some inspiration somewhere, find some guidance, find some steps, find people who've done it. Second, make yourself physically uncomfortable and push that, because I think once you've pushed that physical boundary and you've accomplished something, it makes it easier to push the mental ones.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I think the first thing I did was I did a Tough Mudder, which is this adventure race where it was like 13 miles, bunch of obstacles.
I totally want to do that, man.
And I never thought I was going to finish one of those. But the fact that you train for something like that and you get through it, it gives you this mental boost. Like, okay, at least I've done that.
You raise your self-concept through things like that.
Exactly. So the second thing that I did was I mastered something. So to me, getting to a point where you can get black belt level in something, for me it was scuba diving. I was like, okay. I mean, it took a while. It took like a couple of years to get to like that black belt level where, at that point, like you don't even need to be an instructor. You can just be a dive master. But just like now I know, how to take care of myself, but also how to take care of others, and then also how to show other people how to get started.
Yeah.
And I think once you can get that, whether it's, really in anything.
Yeah.
But like once you've known like, oh, wow, I can actually go from 0 to hero, that really gives you this impact.
Yeah. So key. Absolutely, man.
And then I would say get a taste for financial success. I think even making that first sale cements in your mind that it works. So for me, the only reason why I was so confident when I started Anton's course and knowing that I would be successful at that is because I had made money through selling my Kindle book before that. And even though selling my Kindle book doesn't make that much money, it was still a couple $100 that I never thought would be possible.
Right.
So that was my first step, was like, okay, let me make, even if you guys just make $100 online, but, I write about how to do that on johnnyft.com. I have like one post called like how to make money online, even if you're broke, so there's no excuse not to be able to make $100 online.
Excuse.
All right. Do it, get to that. And then be like, okay, if I can do this, I can definitely build this next business.
Yeah. Oh my God. Absolutely right. You part of the process for sure is just showing yourself that it's possible, even on a small scale. Because once you do take that one step, you could do, and a lot of this is tricks that you can play with yourself and your mind. Guys, you already know this. You are in charge. We are in charge of our mind. Like, it's not the other way around. So you can, even if you don't have a hungry, immigrant mentality, as somebody like David would say, you can trick yourself into saying, I must. You can play that mental game. You close off all other options except one. You don't allow yourself to entertain any other option. You can pretend as if you've already started to have success online and start building your success. And this stuff, this podcast and the books, that's a huge thing. As Johnny said, that's the input. And I know Johnny always stresses this as well, that is the input. And don't just take that and leave it. That's the input. And the other part of it is the output. If you get that in, you got to make sure something comes out of it, because that comes down to your personal action. Otherwise, it's just going to get clogged in. It's not going to help you.
I love that, buddy. And you know what? I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I also want to give you a gift. It's something that it's kind of like that whole summer of everything we just talked about. And it's like, I think when people listen to this podcast or read my blog, they think they know the whole story. They're like, okay, I got it. But the reason why I wrote this book is because that's when I can really open up. So right in front of you, you actually grabbed it. So James just grabbed it off my shelf.
I did, yeah. This is awesome, man. Yeah, I got Life Changes Quick book right here.
But what you don't know, James, is if you look at the first page.
Wow. Yeah. It says
it was already yours. It was already meant for you.
Wow, man. Oh my God, Johnny, thanks, man.
You're very welcome, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Oh my God, it's such an awesome, powerful symbol that Johnny just gifted this book to me, and he wrote a personal message in here, and I was immediately attracted to it as soon as I walked into the door. That's amazing.
I'm glad
Johnny.
you grabbed it off the shelf, because I was like, I want you to have it.
Wow, man. That is so cool, man.
All right, so if you guys listening at home, I can't personally hand you guys one, but you guys can get it on Amazon. It's Life Changes Quick. And James, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Absolutely. So I'm starting a YouTube channel. This is a new project for me and part of my journey. And for right now, it's called James Radcliffe, Finding Freedom. And it's Finding Freedom with James Radcliffe. And so I've done some awesome interviews here and been fortunate enough to do that. And I'm going to want to share them with you guys. And one more thing I would like to share with you here is that this isn't from me, but it's actually from Tony Robbins. And he says, if you think you're going to be successful and you're going to change your entire concept and automatically it's an overnight process, Johnny knows and everybody that's done it knows it's not overnight. So allow yourself to be a beginner. However, if you think it's going to happen just overnight, it's not. You need to develop rituals. You need to develop habits. You will ultimately, the quality of your life ultimately comes down to that quality of your habits and your rituals. It's absolutely true. So whatever you can do, this is one thing that I've done, which has helped me to get here, is I've decided that I could realistically develop one new habit every month. And over the last year, I've been able to do that. One new habit every month. And it started with flossing. And I flossed one tooth. And I did one tooth for like 3 nights in a row, and it got easy. So I could do 2 teeth, and then I did, 3, and it was easy. Don't, take baby steps, because I'm telling you guys, taking that first step and doing that one tooth is 100% better than not doing any.
That is crazy, because my whole life I never flossed because I was too lazy. I wasn't committed to it, even though I knew it would be good for me. Just like how a lot of you guys probably know, committing to a business and having extra income would be good for you guys. A few years ago, I think actually right when I started writing that book, and I don't think I ever mentioned to anyone, I started flossing because I knew it was good for me. And I was like, no matter what, I'm going to floss every day. And I've never missed a day since.
Awesome, man. Respect, man.
Guys, for your dental allergy, that's your tip. But I guarantee you it's more than just for your teeth. If you can commit yourself to doing that, building a business is actually pretty easy.
So guys, tell me that if you talk to me on my YouTube channel or you talk to Johnny, let us know that you started flossing using the 1 tooth a day method at first.
I love it, buddy. Hey James, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. Everyone listening at home, thank you guys for leaving these awesome 5-star reviews of the podcast. Really appreciate it. So this week's podcast review is by Patrick Oliveira from the USA. Learn how to make an online business for real. 5 stars. I've been listening to Johnny's podcast for a few months before I felt like I'd be stuck as an employee forever. Now I'm backpacking in Australia and slowly growing an eBay dropshipping business. In a few months, I'll be in Thailand with some money so I can work on creating an online income full-time. Thank you so much, Johnny. You've changed my life. So thank you to Patrick for leaving that review. And thank you guys all for taking that time and going on iTunes to leave a 5-star review. We're actually at 149 total reviews now. So thanks so much. Whoever's going to be lucky 150, I'm going to give you an extra special shout out guaranteed next week. So make sure you're on there. I also want to quickly thank this week's podcast sponsor, tripstreak.com, the smarter travel search. Next time you guys need to book a flight, go on tripstreak.com/travel-like-a-boss, and you could find the flight that you want based on your search preferences there. So whether you're like me and you like to fly business class like a boss and you only want truly lie flat seats because you don't like those half reclining ones that pretend they're lie flat but they're not, you can set your preferences for truly lie flat seats. So thanks again. That's tripstreak.com/travel-like-a-boss, and I'll see all of you guys next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus, How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.